Hello, hello. This will be a presentation of my Easy Fitness for Jiu-Jitsu program. Be a brief presentation. Let me slideshow. Boom, there we go. Uh, this is the name, Easy Fitness for Jiu-Jitsu. Is a ripoff of Mr. Darren John's Easy Strength. Uh, Start with that right now. So I'm not no original thoughts here. And the goal of this training program is to stay on the mats, to train for as long as possible. And to do so, I think we need something called general movement health. And uh, the thought process, I have to switch pages here. The thought process of this general movement health, right? We want to achieve it by using the most efficient way possible, right? We go back to the judo maxims, maximum efficiency and mutual benefit. We want to do as little as possible outside the gym to have general movement health so we can get on the mats as often as possible, as often as our lives allow us to, and enjoy the process of learning jiu-jitsu. I think mutual benefit is pertinent here as well because I believe when we make things as efficient as possible outside of jiu-jitsu, not only can we spend more time on the mats, but we can also spend more time with our family, spend more time at home, and be a generally good example of what a sustainable fitness practice is to all those around us. This is as important, I think, as the other part. Now, I have to keep going to the other page to click around. Now, the main thing that makes all this possible is Dan John's Rule of 10, from the book Easy Strength. Do 10 reps total of any movement. That's it. 5 sets of 2, 2 sets of 5, 3 sets of 3, right? 9 reps, who cares? But the point is, don't do a lot of reps of any movement per day. I like that because it keeps the workout easy, keeps the workout doable, and allows you to do high frequency workouts, which I believe is important in terms of keeping a habit. Of course, you can overdo it with weight or intensity of the movements you're doing, and that's something we can talk about more in the future. And you have to learn how to figure out how to not overdo it with practice. You will. Remember, the goal is to train on most days, and if you want to train on most days, that will teach you how to modulate that intensity. But eventually, we have to practice, right? We have to practice as often as possible, so eventually we progress, right? Because the goal is progression. After all, it's resistance training is progressive strength training, right? And over time, the goal is to nudge the weights that we're using up, nudge the intensity of the body weight movements we're doing, right? Slowly. Again, we can do a whole other lecture on that subject. Now, whenever we plan a workout, or we talk about a workout program or a fitness program, we have to talk about what movements are worth doing. All fitness programs involve a certain amount of movements, certain types of movements. And my template is this: the idea of movement nutrition. Again, the goal is to create general good athleticism, movement capacity, movement health, whatever you want, however you want to look at it. And I do this in a very functional manner. I like to think of things that humans have to do on a regular basis. And that's why the biggest chunk of this pie that we're looking at here is the act of standing and walking. Uh, I think every day you should pick 2 movements that allow you to stand from the ground up, right? Allow you to practice standing from the ground up. We'll cover that more in a second. I think you should spend a lot of your time walking to cover all the cardiovascular health benefits and general health benefits that entails. After that, we go into second tier. We work on strength, on muscle building, and maintenance of strength as we age. And that's done through lifting and hanging movements, which are the smaller pieces of the pie here, or the plate. And finally, the spice or the little extra that is very crucial, we have to throw in, especially if we want to be athletic jiu-jitsu players, is the run, jump, and throw part. Okay, and we'll cover what that entails more in the following slides. Okay, so when I talk about standing, uh, I'm talking about these basic calisthenic movements that you do on the floor, right? The ability to move your body around space, particularly in relationship to the floor. And all more complex standing actions are based on these four actions right here: bridge, plank, squat, and sit up. I wrote here the mobility and strength are both worked in standing because, well, to do calisthenics, you not only have to go through a range of motion, right? But you have to be strong enough to go through a range of motion. So working mobility and strength at the same time. Uh, now, we include the full sit here instead of a regular crunch or something, even though that would count as a sit up. Because, and any variation of a plank or push up, a bridge, a squat or a lunge, a sit up, D up, whatever, counts as one of these. But the reason I include the full sit up here is in the form of a Turkish get up, which is just one way of doing a full sit up, is because in general, I recommend people do full standing movements instead of bringing them down to pieces. Now, if you're starting your fitness journey, bringing them down to pieces makes sense. Now, if you're a little bit more into it, I recommend full standing movements because sequencing one thing after the other kind of fills in the blanks and 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 highlights the mobility part of things. And again, most of the days I use this as warm-ups and as self-diagnosis of how I'm feeling that day. Now, I have two examples here of a full standing movement. I have a Turkish get up, which I don't recommend it to be done with heavy weights on a regular basis, but a lightweight is fine. And there's plenty of other ways to stand up from your back. In other words, a sit up to stand. I wrote sit up to squat. I should have wrote sit up to stand. A sit up to stand movement. The example here is a Turkish get up, but there's plenty of other ways. Look at my Instagram feed. There's a lot of them there. And then there's also push up to stand movements that you can do from your belly. This is your classic US sun salutation, which is another example. And again, we see the stages here. We see a sit up first here. Between these two movements, there's a bridge. It's not pictured in this illustration, but there's a bridge between these two movements. That's what you use to bring the leg all the way back. You support on two limbs to bring the leg all the way back. And then there's a lunge or a squat, right? A lunge is a squat. A squat is a lunge. Squat is not a lunge, but a lunge is a squat. Anyhow, so here's your sun salutation, which again starts in a plank position. If you start from the floor, starts in a plank position, then goes through a lunge, which is a squat. Then you stand, right? Then you do your little fold thing, which you can kind of consider a squat motion too. And then back into a lunge and back into a plank. So it's a push up to squat or a push up to stand. Okay. Now, for lifting motions, I also like full body lifts, right? I also like longer lifting motions. We'll get back to that in a second. Let's talk about squat, walking. Walking is your second biggest chunk of the pie, right? Actually, this is the most time-consuming chunk of the pie, and because we stand so we can go to places, right? And you can take either of these recommendations, right? The classic 10,000 steps goal, which is great because you can use your phone pedometer and whatever, or you can use it, spend your walking time as a workout. So I'm going to walk 30 minutes a day, whatever. And that's 150 minutes a week. That's what the government recommends we should get as moderate cardiovascular exercise. And here's the thing: you do all your hard exercise, your hard cardio doing your jiu-jitsu practice, right? So I think outside of jiu-jitsu, we should work on the easy stuff again, because we're trying to make this an easy, sustainable practice. That's why we use the Rule 10, and that's what we walk instead of doing hard interval training or whatever. Walking is easy to do, and if it's easy to do, you can do it regularly. Now, of course, when jiu-jitsu gets easy, when there's no rolling that week, when there's no sparring, go ahead and add some running in. I love run-walk programs, so any type of interval running, walking program. And of course, other cardio is perfectly fine, right? If you like to do your light cardio on a bike, and then once in a while do intervals, do so. Now, as I was saying earlier, I kind of skipped a slide there. I love, when we talk about lifting, we're talking about lifting from the ground up, right? practicing the art of actually lifting a weight from the ground up. That's what I think we should practice. And there's plenty of examples of what I call different stages of lifting, right? A deadlift is a lifting to a hip, right? A clean is lifting to the shoulders. A press is lifting overhead, right? It's different stages, different of lifting that weight above your head, right? Lifting that weight to different distances, and then I couldn't not throw in the squat, right? Once you get to your shoulders, you can always squat it. And I think these are the movements we should focus on, really. Nothing else, right? We can cycle through them. We can just focus on one for a while and then focus on another one for another while. Uh, and my favorite is when we combine them, right? There's no, I love clean into presses. I love cleans into squats, right? And that throws in that hip hinge for the deadlift as well. Uh, any tool, right? I love kettlebells. I have a barbell here because I found these great illustrations of a barbell, but kettlebells work, sandbags work, whatever. Learn to lift well, and we'll do another presentation on what it means to lift well in the future. Now, hanging. Uh, Hanging is also very important, of course, and an important way to build strength is the main way to build strength for your upper body, in my opinion. Uh, of course, because it also involves your abdominals and whatnot. And I think we should look at hanging not only as pull-ups, right? Not only as full hangs from a straight bar, because sometimes that's just too hard to do on a regular basis. I really think people should have partial hangs in mind when they do daily hangs, right? So that's what suspension trainers do. You keep your feet on the floor while you're hanging off the straps, but you can also use a bench or a step of some sort, a chair to hang from a pull-up bar. I think pull-ups and rows, where you pull yourself with the arms, are great, but and we should practice them on a regular basis. But I also think we should practice straight arm work where we lift the legs up. And I definitely think we should practice getting over the bar, getting over the handles, right? AKA muscle ups. And of course, just like pull-ups are probably hard for most people to do on a regular basis, even though you should do it on a weekly basis if you can. Muscle ups I can't do. I have been able to do muscle ups, but currently I can't do muscle ups easily without suffering elbow pain or neck pain or whatever. So I do a whole lot of assisted muscle ups. So this is an assisted muscle up, right? You row and then you press. This is an assisted muscle up, right? We're practicing the legs to get over the handles, right? I do the same thing with a bar. So just like I like clean and presses because they're longer movements, and clean and squats, I like me some muscle ups. But any hand will help. Again, rule of 10 on the strength movements, especially, okay? Because it's a lot of work over a week, and you're trying to train some jujitsu. Finally, these are the movements that keep you athletic. These are the movements that help you finish your takedowns, right? Help you not be afraid of takedowns. And I made a mistake here when I made this presentation. Didn't take into account this box right here. But when we're thinking about sprinting, jumping, and throwing, you have to include tumbling and jumping. After all, break falls are landing a jump, right? Landing a fall is landing a jump. So when you run hills often, right, or sprint hills or sprint whatever, or skip often, really, sprinting is kind of hard on your body, right? Hill sprinting is easier on your body. If you don't have a hill, do some skipping. Jumping rope is great, right? Maybe if you want a little bit more higher intensity, maybe some little box jump action. Don't go too high. Throwing medicine balls is great. Playing catch is awesome. Play games, but if you don't have a partner, right, don't have a wall to throw things against, mace swinging, club swinging, rope swinging, like flow rope stuff is great. Way of working those throwing patterns. And do them often, but a little bit, right? I suggest one of these things per workout. Sometimes if it's real light, do two. Again, just to keep your body used to moving fast and being bouncy and not being afraid to move in this way. So you can be decent at takedowns, really. I mean, let's put it that way. And that's it, really. That is the end of this presentation. Remember, what we're looking here is to build a sustainable movement practice to keep you on the mats. That's all this is about. I hope this wasn't too long. Please comment with questions as much as you can. Have a nice day. And And follow the website. The YouTube channel has a lot of videos on these exercises, and my Instagram account, the exercise teacher, has plenty of examples of my own workouts. Have a nice day.